Um, Welcome, everyone. So my name is Tim Anderson. I'm the chair of the Portland State University Engineering and Technology Management Department. I want to welcome everyone to this morning's PhD defense, Perceived Value of Technology Product Features by Crowdfunding Backers, the case of 3D printing technology on Kickstarter by Nina Chaichi. So this is the final defense for a PhD dissertation in the Technology Management PhD program at Portland State University. This program is a successful program that has had now over 50 graduates of the PhD program since its inception. And this process, for those that are unfamiliar with it, will consist of a presentation by Nina Chaichi to the committee. The committee members consist of myself, Dr. Yetter, Dr. Cunningham, and Dr. Fountain. The committee has been working with Nina over the years in this process. After her presentation, the committee will have an opportunity to be asking questions, followed by the public, everyone else being able to ask questions, and then the committee will go into a deliberation in a private breakout room. Everyone that's attending is welcome to stay throughout this process, and while the committee is in a breakout room later on, welcome to continue amongst yourselves and continue discussions. The committee will then return back to give final information at the end. While we've allocated 2 hours of time, it often goes somewhat more quickly than that. And so you're all welcome to stay for the duration. So with that, I'd like to introduce Nina Chaichi. It's been a pleasure working with her over the years, seeing her many different areas of work, having come from a pure electrical engineering background to now working in the technology management area and also working in data science and analytics. So she's been very successful, and she's been doing this work on 3D printers. Without further ado, please join me in welcoming Nina Chaichi and her PhD defense. Thanks.
Thanks, Dr. Anderson. I'd like to start with introducing my dissertation committee. The chair of the committee is Dr. Anderson from ETM department, Portland State University. Dr. Anthony Yetter, member of the committee from ETM department, Portland State University. Dr. Scott Cunningham, from Government and Public Department, University of Strathclyde, and Dr. Robert Fountain from Math and Statistics Department, Portland State University. So, crowdfunding is a practice that gathers small funds from large crowd using online platform. There are different type of platforms which they can further clustered into broader categories like altruism platform where backers donate to sustainability and charity project, hedonism platform where backers support innovative and creative products and projects, and for-profit platform where backers invest in businesses and startups. One of the very first questions that triggered this research is how the innovation-related theories work in a crowdfunding platform where the innovative products are the focus. So for that purpose, I chose Kickstarter, the biggest hedonism platform and most researched one for the purpose of this study, and focus on the technology product, where backers provide support to entrepreneurs and receive a technology product in return. The policy of the Kickstarter is all or nothing. So entrepreneurs are going to fund it if they meet their financial goal they set for their campaign and if their campaign is successful. On the other hand, the theory that I chose to study in this environment is diffusion of innovation theory. And the reason for that is, first, I could map the crowdfunding literature into the elements of this theory. And also the second reason is that it was helpful to explain the shortcoming of the crowdfunding literature in technology category. The major crowdfunding research area is backers and founders motivation, and also success determinants of crowdfunding campaigns. And the intention of both areas is to understand the interaction between backers and founders regarding to crowdfunding platform. These are all the motivation discussed in the literature for both backers and founders. And among these motivation, only 3 of them directly or indirectly related to product itself. And for the success determinant part, I gathered all those success determinants. I categorized them into 4 categories. The last 3 that I could map them into the communication channel and social system elements of diffusion of innovation theory. But for the first one, it's a difference between the literature in crowdfunding and what's emphasized in diffusion of theory, innovation theory. In that theory, they kind of focus on the information communicated to the information about the product communicated to the adopters. But in this setting, is mostly the focus on the information about the campaign, about the founders itself, their experiences, and their financial needs, the quality of their campaigns. There are a few determinants that indirectly related to product, like having the video and image presence in the campaign, but there are indications that this approaches is not explaining the unique characteristics of the technology product. For example, they consider the image and video presence helps with increasing the success rate of the campaigns, but for the technology category, including the image and video is mandatory, yet it has the lowest success rate among all of these categories. So putting all of these together, I come up with these 2 gaps. The first one is that how the backers value the product. Is it something that motivates backer to support the campaign and project on crowdfunding platform or not? And the objective is have a better understanding of the motivation and dynamics of a hedonism platform for technology products. And the research question that I wanted to answer is that, do principles of diffusion of innovation theory apply to innovative technology product on crowdfunding platform with a focus on innovation itself? The second one is among those kind of motivation listed for founders, they say they can use this platform to test their product in the market, but there is no guidance how they should interpret and using these campaigns as a market research tool. So I wanted to provide a guidance for them to have a better estimate of the demand for their product. And the question I wanted to answer is that, what are the relative advantages of the technology product in crowdfunding environment, which is also helpful for the first gap as well. So this is how I design my research. I can divide it into 2 sections. The first section, this section above, is where I am gathering and preparing the data for model building, the main process is colored in gray, and the test, the reliability test for each process is highlighted in red. The second part is building my model. Building because I wanted to examine this theory in this new environment is directly related to analytic generalization. And the next step I took is adding some step and be able to statistically generalize my finding. For example, I could say all this finding can be applied to 3D printing technology on a similar platform like Kickstarter, and by adding these transferability steps, I wanted to enable the readers to be able to have informed inferences from this finding to this to the new technology product in crowdfunding platforms. So I acquired data from Kickstarter for 3D printing technology from April 1st, 2011 to September 15th, 2017. There are 520 relevant projects, but not all of them are useful for the purpose of my study. So I manually separated the ones that provided the whole technology. After removing all the duplicates, I end up with 244 projects for analysis. I needed to do some reformatting of the gathered data. It was pretty easy and straightforward for the numeric data that I have, but it's been a quite process for the textual data. I used this process because I wanted to it was very helpful for me to gather the comprehensive set of product features in a most efficient way rather than doing them manually. So I started with pre-processing those texts and doing POS tagging and dependency parsing because they are required by rule-based and double propagation techniques that are used to extract the noun and adjectives that can explain the product features, and then I use those noun and adjectives and specific patterns for noun phrases to determine the product, the candidate product features. I cluster them to be easier for me to sweep through to identify the key technologies, characteristics, and system for 3D printing. And then I consulted with my expert to kind of pick the main characteristics. I matched those main characteristics with the noun phrases, provide them to expert. My expert categorized them. I quantify those categories, and they are ready to be used in my model. So I use the logistic regression for kind of do the classification and see how they affecting the output of my campaign. 0 for failed represent the failed campaigns, and 1 represent the successful campaign. But I had a problem here, and the problem is that the number of the features is way more than the number of the cases that I have. So this is known as the curse of dimensionality and caused several problems like overfitting and statistical significance issue, and distance concentration that negatively affects the accuracy of the classification model. But this most of the research, they use the penalized term to eliminate some of these product features and overcome these issues. So I needed to solve this new equation by adding this penalized term there. And the lambda parameter here is what is controls the regularization process and selection process. If it's too Small is going to end up in overfitting, and if it's too large, it's going to be underfitting. So I needed to find the optimal lambda here. Cross-validation is the simple and widely used techniques in these matters. I use a tenfold cross-validation to find my best lambda, and based on that lambda, I found what features are selected and their impact. My model output was a little bit unstabilized, so I added bootstrapping and repeat the whole process for 100 times to stabilize the output of the model. But also this helped me, the bootstrapping here, to find weak trends that's not found that's not obvious in the selected features. So the first question is that how the innovation itself, it's kind of like going to affect the success of the campaign. And the reason I focus on the product is because the communication channel and social community is already covered in literature, and time is not an independent factor. And I added and considered time in the next research question. I took another step and separated the data I had based on the technology, the process of 3D printing they used. As you see here in these pictures, material extrusion process uses these solid filaments, heat that filament and extrude that to create a 3D object. And on the other hand, the vat photopolymerization uses different source of the lights to cure the liquid resin and have that 3D objects. And because of that, they're using completely different features. And if I consider them together, they're going to worsen the curse of the dimensionality. So because of that reason, I studied them separately. The result I got is that product features impacts campaign success in material extrusion, but I couldn't see that kind of relation in the vat photopolymerization. So there are two reasons for that. It's either is a contradictory result or it's a selection problem. I did extra analysis. I did some reverse engineering to see how this selection method is deciding what feature select and which one to spare. And at the end, I come to a conclusion that it's not a contradictory result, it's a selection problem. And it's not undermining the result I got in the first process. It's, on the contrary, is underscores the learning opportunity I can have by using this data. So the second question is what are the relative advantages of a technology product in a crowdfunding environment? I focus on only relative advantages because the other product attribute mentioned in diffusion of innovation theory is either is not applicable in crowdfunding environment, or it's too hard and infeasible to study. The two factors that influences the relative advantages is the time and price. Because of that, I segmented my data based on each factor and two factors together and repeat all the models for each data segments and do the analysis. This is my approach, how I derive the insights. I compare the result I got from the general model and segmented model, all of them together. The factors I consider is feature selection and also the probability of features have an impact, not only the selection part. And I label each insight as a verified statistically and verified by subject matter expert to show where the confidence is coming. Is it derived from the combination of the selected features and the features that has a non-zero probability to has an impact, or only comes from the feature that has a probability of effect? This is one of the example. For example, this nozzle type and quality feature I had. It has a positive impact in overall. It cannot be kind of this divided by the year, but when I divided by price, I realized that this is mostly in the low-end technologies rather than the high-end price technology. And even for the high-end is mostly like it's a must-have, and mentioning that it's has a negative impact. So, and I verified this because I didn't have any selection in these segments. I used the probability of the non-zero impact to kind of strengthen my analysis and insight. The trend that I saw in my analysis has a three main theme. It's a novelty of the product, the dynamic between novelty and price, and the quality. The novelty is that the product features affect the intention of the backers to support the technology product, and also the breakthrough features are the main interaction. And then on the Kickstarter, this material extrusion hit the maturation point. I see that this impact started to decrease. But another things that going to help after maturity point is that early issue with the product can strengthen the interest in those features, and also create a new opportunity for introducing new features. And a second big thing was a dynamic between novelty and price. After it's a general understanding that people used to back the product on Kickstarter because they can get it for a discounted price. But my analysis showed that the backers are not necessarily looking to find a cheap product. Lower price is incentive and interest when kind of the product features is matures, but it's not the main driver, especially when the quality is in question. The other things that is the quality. For the must-have features, quality plays a big role. If there's a concern about that quality of that features, there are two other trends that I saw in the analysis, is that the standardization, it kills the interest in the feature. Also, when the product get more complex, one of the that's a chance for one of the competing system to win over and adopted by backers. So based on these three themes, there is not a big difference between these relative advantages of product in crowdfunding platform with the relative advantages of product in the general market. But the difference is that how backers synthesize the information and make decision. And the two big factors going to affect that kind of decision and synthesis is the availability of the practical information. What I see in the trends that, yes, they don't have this opportunity to directly compare two products against each other, but the attitude toward one of the features is kind of like it's a cumulative, and it's going to be affected by previous experiences and previous launched product. The other things that the availability of the alternatives at the time of decision making. So backers are not trying to optimize their decision in the crowdfunding platform. They try to meet their needs and to see if it works to take a risk or not. And the last thing that is going to affect is that the market size in the crowdfunding environment is limited. So even if the product is considered as a novel in the general market, may not be considered novel on a crowdfunding platform. There are multiple factors that can affect the findings of my result. The first thing is the estimation error that I had in calculating the product price. I tested that, and I make sure that it's not going to change any of the results of my models in any of the sections. And the other things is that I use these techniques, which is well established for the customer reviews, to extract the product features from the description of the campaign in crowdfunding environment. And I did my best to check and make sure that these techniques are well adapted to this new environment. But there are two inherent limitations I needed. There that I couldn't do anything about them. One is I used the opinion of expert to categorize the product features. We try to stick to functionality of the 3D printing to do those categorization, and I try to make the whole process as auditable as possible. But if the widths of the categories get changed in future, it's going to result in different, I'm going to get different results in my model in different segments. And the other things that another inherent limitation is that I just use the description provided in the campaign, but the information about the product can communicate it through other channels, which is out of scope of this analysis to get into see what information are communicated outside of these descriptions. When it came to the model, I try to kind of compensate the scarcity of the product feature I had by considering this probability of impact and not relying completely on the selection. But even with that, there might be features that I missed their impact. The other things that I didn't consider all the determinants that are going to affect the crowdfunding campaign. I just focus on the product feature. So I'm not sure which one has a stronger impact on the outcome. The other things that the effect of product development in the general market can affect the development on crowdfunding environment, which I didn't consider that as well. But the last one is creates an opportunity for future studies. Also, I established this framework that can be used for analyzing the trend of the technology and demand associated with each trend. And this is useful for example, finding the lead user or in the context of technology forecasting. I have this research has three main contribution, but the most important one is a theoretical contribution. I established that the value of the product is a motivation for backers, and the product features as impacting the outcome of each campaigns. Also, I provided insight that how backers is about evaluating the product, the technology product. On the methodological level, I extended the application of these well-established techniques in customer review context to this new context. I introduced how to do the clustering for the technical terms rather than general terms, and also developed the open source script for double parallel propagation technique in R, which I intend to turn it into the package in near future. And on the practical level, I provided blueprints to entrepreneur to how to interpret the result of their campaign and use it as a market research tool. So this is what I have today for you. Thanks for being here and listening to my presentation. I also wanted to take this opportunity and thank my advisor, Dr. Anderson. What you started in the research group, it gave me this new career path that I get to enjoy every day. And also, I want to thank you that trusted me with this topic. I know that it's not something in your academic interest, but you supported me anyway. And I know that life wasn't easy for you in past few years. So thanks for that. Dr. Yetter, I just realized that I defended my comprehensive exam on this day 3 years ago. And yeah, it's I didn't plan it, but it's interesting coincidence. But your perfect reaction on that day is make me believe that I can fight for my life and do this PhD. And for that, I really thank you. Sorry, I need to gather myself. But yeah, you continue to support me as well throughout this whole journey, and I thank you for that. And Dr. Fountain and Dr. Cunningham, I always had a huge respect for you, for all your work that you have done, and I'm grateful that you kind of accepted to be on my committee and provided me this valuable feedback, which helped me to elevate my dissertation. I also want to take this opportunity and thank my mom and dad, whom happened to be my third grade teacher and math teacher, for nurturing my passion for learning, my friends and family who lifted me up when I was so tired to continue, my colleagues without their immense understanding. I couldn't work and study at the same time, but lastly, Yasser, he provided very valuable input as an expert, but he stand by me during the hardest part of my life and make this moment possible for me. For that, I'm beyond grateful. And sorry for getting emotional. No. It's been a quiet journey for me.
Well, thank you, Nina, and it's been a real pleasure working with you as well. And you've been both great to work with there and so helpful to so many others too. And so I know you've had a hard journey, but we're at a great stage right now. I also want to call out and thank Melissa Rowe, who is serving as our Zoom host for this event. And so she's helping make sure everything runs smoothly. Melissa's been a lead on this for our PhD dissertations. And so just again, as a reminder for everyone here, the next stage will be questions from the committee, and then that will be followed by questions from the public. And so once again, thank you, Nina. Great job. And let's proceed with questions from the committee. I'd like to ask Dr. Yetter, for example, would you like to lead off the discussions? Dr. Yetter, by the way, was just recently announced as being promoted to full professor at Portland State University, and so by President Percy. So congratulations to our new full professor, Dr. Antonia Jetter.
You. Thanks. Yeah, Nina, I really enjoyed your presentation. I think it's very exciting. And I have several questions, but I think I'll start with a really broad one. So you talked about 244 projects, and you constantly had this fight with having a relatively small sample. So you had to do bootstrapping, you could find really good results for this other technology. So I think my question is, why go through all this pain of automating this process with this small sample? Why not just go through 244 projects manually and answer your theoretical research questions without an automated process?
That's a really good question. 244 project is a small sample size for doing the analysis, but I tested it on my expert. I wasn't the expert in this area of 3D printing. So I needed to be mindful of the time I'm going to take from my expert and gaining his view and gather those views. But for the test, I gave him one of this campaign and timed him to see how much time is going to get from him to go through this description and extract the features that's important for me. It took 3 hours for him to just go through half of one of the campaigns, and it wasn't a comprehensive one. And at that point, I realized that I can make the process easier for him. So I used these techniques. I gathered all those information and tried to give it in a more clean way to be able to sift through. Even with doing all this automation, it took him about a month to be able to go through all the information I provided him to categorize those product features.
Thank you.
So would you like a follow-up on that?
Okay. Good for now. I have others, but I want to give other people airtime.
Okay, Dr. Cunningham.
Thank you, Nina. I am very enthusiastic about your topic in two regards. I very much like the Kickstarter angle. I get the feeling we're seeing the glimpse of the future with this, and I think you are too. I also like the 3D printing aspects of this very much. And I have many, that enthusiasm leads to many questions, of which I'll just have to choose a few. How about we talk about, in your thesis, you talk about integrated design spaces. You also talk about correlations between features. Could you give us your rundown or account of the design space that you think these Kickstarters explored?
Yes, I have a very good, yes, here, previous one. So yeah, I mentioned that I did some reverse engineering to make sure how this selection is happening and how it's deciding which product select and which features spare. So I come up with these 3 different development trains. The selection, it happens, it finds this main space. the main product features that is developed together. They have either high or low frequency, but they should have this high association with one of the outcome of the campaigns, either the failed campaigns or successful one, and all of them should co-occur with each other. So if I have all these three metrics for one features, is going to be in the selected. So it shows that there is a main design space for that technology. And then I went through to see if I have one feature that resembles to one of these features in the main design space, why it's not selected. So I came to this conclusion that their association is not strong as this main design space to be selected. So I called him as a big trend in main design space. And also I realized that there is some branch design. So there are features that's not necessarily needs to be developed side by side of this main design. And I call them branch design. They can have the high or low frequency, but they need to have the high association with output of one output of the campaign, but they necessarily not co-occurred with all of those features in main design. I don't know if it answers your question or not.
Yes, it does. And I think there's a lot of interesting thinking there that we could go into more detail, but I'm going to defer. I'm happy with that. That was a very complete answer. Thank you.
Great. Thank you. Okay, Dr. Fountain.
Well, first of all, Nina, that was very thorough. The statistical analysis part was extremely well done. I have one little technical question. In your logistic regression with a penalty term, you identified it as lasso regression.
Yes.
And when you wrote the formula for the penalty term, it looked like you were minimizing the sum of the squares of the beta coefficients. And the default in lasso is to have that penalty term minimizing the sum of absolute values. So if your formula is right, then you were doing something a little bit more like ridge regression, or perhaps your displayed formula is not exactly what R was doing. You're doing this in like GLMNet in R?
Yes, I'm using GLMNet. I use this representation for simplicity. I didn't want to have that complete formula that with alpha, if alpha is 0 is going to be ridge or 1 is lasso. So I just stick with this form for the simplicity. But I use the GLMNet R package, and I included their calculation in my dissertation.
All right, well, both methods are fine. I mean, they both really are achieving the same purpose. They're shrinking the slope coefficients towards 0, which decreases variance and gives you usually a more parsimonious model because you have fewer terms remaining in it. But I just want to make sure that in your final paper, you have correctly identified the method. The LAS in lasso stands for least absolute shrinkage.
Yes.
Your formula is showing the square. So
sure.
resolve those two, correctly identify what you did.
Sure. I'm not completely expert in this area, but based on my understanding, lasso selects the features, but ridge either selects all of them or none of them, if it's the correct depiction of the difference between the lasso and ridge. But because I'm selecting from these features, not defining if I'm going to keep all of them or none of them, that was my understanding that I'm using lasso rather than ridge.
Yeah, no, I think it was an appropriate use of it, but what I'm saying is that there are two very similar versions of it, And I think you labeled it one way, but you may have used the other one. I think Dr. Anderson can have a quick look at your R code and tell you which one is correct.
Sure. Yeah. And I double checked that. Thanks.
Okay.
Great.
That's all I had. Thanks.
Okay. Thank you. And can you comment on your plans for making the code available for other people? I mean, you're talking about right now it's available on GitHub. You're planning on submitting it to CRAN to make it possible for others to do and make use of your work?
Yes, so far I didn't have that much time. So this double propagation is not available on any platform. It's mostly in the form of the script in Java and Python. So I have a placeholder on the GitHub, and I'm in the process of cleaning the code to put it on the GitHub for time being. But yes, it's my plan is not just these double propagation techniques, but adding other aspect and opinion techniques implemented in a package in R.
Okay. At that point, it might be possible to do something such as submitting it to the R Journal, which is a peer-reviewed journal that that does things. So that might be an additional publication outlet for that. Have your lessons learned from this given you inspiration to lead a future Kickstarter project or crowdfunding project of your own?
I have an idea that I'd like to work on that, but it's not suitable for the crowdfunding environment. It's more like I want to work on patient management platform. But I guess it's going to give me vision to help friends or other people if they have a project they want to launch on Kickstarter. I can help them. One of my friends reached out to me last year. He wanted to get my opinion because he knew that I'm working on this topic to help him with launching his Kickstarter campaign.
Great. Let's circle around to the other committee members, or to the committee members again. Dr. Yetter?
Yeah, I have another question. So in diffusion of innovation theory, as you say yourself, relative advantage is really important. So in comparison to whatever the state of the art is, can you talk a little bit about how your research approach operationalizes the relative part of the advantage?
From making it practice, it's if I understand your question correctly, that I try to publish this, or even reaching out to maybe Kickstarter or other companies that are already out there and helping people to launch their campaign, to be able to provide this finding to them and try to leverage of the use of these outputs. But other than that, I don't know how much I can do with that.
I misspoke, so I didn't explain my question really well. So I think you're thinking relative advantage of your approach. I'm thinking within the research that you did, you're trying to contribute to diffusion of innovation theory. And you're saying, well, in one way or another, those Kickstarter campaigns are all one-offs. People do not compare against other existing technologies. They like the campaign or they don't. Yet in diffusion of innovation theory, the idea is a product needs to have a relative advantage over existing solutions. That explains its diffusion pattern. And so I think my question is, how do you, or have you operationalized this idea of relative advantage? It's better than some state of the art. How is that reflected in your research approach?
Sure. I guess it can be a future work, but if you remember, I had this decision-making process that I acquired from the diffusion of innovation theory, but because I was doing any decision-making process, so I left it out. But I think what I'm doing, if this diffusion is going to be applied in the environment and the crowdfunding environment, they need to expand one of the part and the attention part, how the people perceive these values in on the crowdfunding. So basically, they're saying that people, the adopters, is going to be observing this kind of products, or they trying to see if it's compatible with their needs, and then try to use all of those information and leverage it to see if it's which one, compare these products against each other. But what I'm maybe it's a contribution of mine to this theory, using it in crowdfunding, is that they need to change their objectives and what they want to assess at that part for the perception. So that objective is not the same as the general market. This, yeah.
Okay. Dr. Cunningham.
When we were last talking, you answered about integrated design spaces, and that revealed something interesting for me. I'd like to explore that a little bit further. Let's begin by, let me begin by asking, how much of that design space do you think the Kickstarters that you witnessed actually explored? Were they concentrated in a narrow part of the space, or did they explore the full variety of possible designs that might have been there?
I guess they explored, I don't know if I have one, I guess, good. Here, just go to, this is the outcome of my general model. So basically it shows overall what are those features or the main design space that people are concentrating on. And when I talk to my expert, 3D printing expert, is kind of like and I also double check it with the whole talking point on the trend of the technology products. And I put them together, it's kind of, they explored all those trends and they talked about off of these platforms. And also, I can say there's even more than it's considered off of these platforms. For example, there's I couldn't see the direct impact, maybe because it's a shortcoming of my model, but there is adding new capability like CNC milling and laser engraving is not considered in this book. I was reading about the 3D printing and all the new trends, but there is something that I picked on Kickstarter as well. But the rest of it, it's kind of, there is a very comprehensive kind of design space they are exploring, but I kind of can say some of these features in design space that I called it as my main design space that I can say directly has impact on the success outcome of the campaign. I have enough frequency of them.
That's definitely a relevant answer. We've got the full set of Kickstarters exploring some part of the space, and then what you call your main design space were the ones that were successful. So I want to draw a distinction between the full set that the entrepreneurs thought were interesting and the ones that the market actually wanted. And then I have a follow-up question for you, which is, why do you think, okay, so the entrepreneurs didn't get it right. and you want to help the entrepreneurs. Why do you think they launched so many? What fraction of Kickstarters didn't succeed? And what is your explanation for the failure of entrepreneurs to immediately get the market right, or to not learn after a few examples of previous successful Kickstarters? So in short, why are the entrepreneurs not rational here?
I'm glad you asked it. It's maybe I have something here. It's one of very interesting aspect that I realized in the result. If I have it here, yeah. There is this intuition or understanding that if you go for a low price, you can have create more success. But when I did the analysis, it's completely opposite. The Kickstarter campaign that aimed for lowering the price of the 3D printing technology had very lower success rather than the one who aimed for high-end technology. One of the things that I guess is a great lesson for entrepreneurs that they do not necessarily need to lower the price of their product, or people on this platform, they are trying to get something to meet their needs. So they are not looking after to find the cheapest product on this crowdfunding platform. So I guess this is the biggest point that can help entrepreneurs to create more success, not even during the campaign, also after the campaign, because the fund they gathered is really important to support all those efforts they need to take to complete the production of their products and launch it and ship it to people and create this good image about their product. So I would say my recommendation to them that do not necessarily go after a low price product unless you have anything else distinguish your product versus the previous one launched on these platforms. They're going to have a harder time to create success if they go for the cheaper and low price product.
Thank you.
Okay, Dr. Fountain.
I don't have any further questions.
Okay. Any other questions from Dr. Yetter, Dr. Cunningham? No? Okay. With that, what we'll do is we'll start the, transitioning into the public. We'll start with faculty from ETM. And so, Dr. Weber, if you have any questions that you would like to ask, feel free to start.
I have the slide that you're just showing piqued my interest. There are a few things there that I don't understand. Essentially, you know, McNemar's value, p-value, and that. Could you elaborate on the statistics of what on the method here, of what's going on here?
I guess I have a better slide for that I can show you. Get with the definition of each of them, what they mean. So this is
okay, that helps. Yes. Okay, go ahead.
Yeah, this called confusion statistic, which is used to evaluate the performance of the classification model. So the p-value is showing us if the accuracy represented here is significant. And what that significant means is that if those selected features are adding anything valuable to model I have, the result I have based on just looking, see, okay, Right now, I can say 60% of all the campaigns launched on the crowdfunding are successful. Are those selected features can significantly make that accuracy like 69%, 70% or not? That's the p-value, and the McNemar's test is pointing to imbalances of the performance of this classification model. If my model works good on predicting the successful campaign, but it has a short following of predicting the unsuccessful one, this is going to be significant, this test. So it's
Okay, thank you.
measure for the performance.
Yeah, this slide helps a lot. Okay, so this is actually this is consistent with, it looks now, due to this slide, it looks fairly standard, not unusual at all.
No.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. And Dr. Julie Hu is a recent visiting professor in our department, having been here for about 1.5 years or 2 years, and recently returned back home to his institution, and is joining us all the way from Korea, or from China. So thank you, Dr. Hu. Do you have any questions?
No questions. Thank you.
Okay.